So you're looking for that special property.
Today is Q&A.
This is the video for you, right here on Cabin Life. Hello, welcome to our channel. We're all about sharing our adventures and experiences around our homestead and off-grid cabin here on our 40 acres in the wilderness of Ontario, Canada.
We enjoy life around the cabin, exploring, canoeing, hiking, campfire cooking, gardening, and sharing our love of nature.
If you haven't done so yet, consider subscribing and click the little notification bell so you won't miss anything. Right here on Cabin Life with Glenn and Maureen. Hi, I'm Glenn.
And I'm Maureen.
You know, we've had a few questions from viewers that would like to buy property.
And today we're going to answer some of those questions and tell you a few stories too.
So guys, we thought we'd start off by telling you a little bit of our story and how we came to find this piece of property. And it was certainly by no accident that we found it. Maureen spent many years in the assessment field, so she was around real estate quite a bit.
Yes. And we also did a lot of nature recording in the same area, so we were familiar with a lot of the forest and the roads in the area before we started looking.
For our retirement years, we decided we wanted to find a piece of property that was going to suit our needs as far as being close to nature, facilitate our nature recordings, and yet be close enough, you know, to a near a city that you know, there was all the supplies that we needed and services that we would need. So that was important to us, and we found this piece of property after about 2 years or so, at least, of looking. Actually, it was many more years than that, on more of a casual basis.
And once we got closer to retirement years, we started honing down our search more and getting more serious. So we looked at all the maps and all the roads, and we chose the areas that we felt would be most suitable for us, like Glenn said, close to services and so forth. And then we started driving roads and looking at real estate.
And that was a journey on its own, getting to know the area, what area that we wanted, and also knowing that the type of land that we wanted, to know what it was going to be like on a year-round basis from season to season, so that it would accommodate us as well. Especially for, you know, having the off-grid cabin here, which was part of what we wanted to do, and to have an on-grid homestead, which we have as well. Question 1, how can I find out what I can and cannot do on a given piece of property?
That's a good question, and the best way is to go to the municipal body or whichever government body takes care of that area and ask them. There's planning departments, there's building departments, and they would be able to answer all of your questions.
Question number 2, when is it a good time to buy land? And we've given some thought to that, and Maureen, I think, can attest to the fact that, you know, that she was in real estate, property assessment actually for 30 years, and so we saw the ebb and flow of the real estate market through good times and through not so good times, where interest rates had risen right through the roof, and people were having to turn their keys in, basically, and also through times where real estate wasn't moving all that well, and other times where it was moving so much it was a frenzy. So, you know, we've seen the bubble and the bubble burst, and it seems like there's an ebb and flow, right? There's always a cycle. There's a low, and then there's a crest, and you know, if you buy just after the crest, well, that's one thing if you're buying on the low, but it all depends on a couple different factors, right?
Yeah, and we learned through the years to watch the real estate and to recognize where the market is in the ebb and flow. And the one thing we learned was the best time to buy is just as the market's starting to go up, but to stay away from when it crests, because after it crests, it goes back down.
And that's as far as an investment standpoint.
Right. And also for when you're buying property for yourself to live in or to enjoy, like a cottage or whatever, You want to know that if you ever have to sell it, that you're going to be able to sell and make some income with it after you sell.
Now that brings us to the point of when is it a good time to buy? Well, also when's a good time to sell? What is sometimes it's a buyer's market and sometimes it's a seller's market. It all depends on the circumstance, where you are, where you're going to and from. Maybe you can give a little light on that, Maureen.
Okay, like right now with the current world situation, there's a lot of people in urban areas who are looking to move out to the rural areas to where there's less population. So right now it could be a buyer's market in the urban areas where people are trying to sell, where buyers could pick up a good deal. But then on the other hand, at the other end of it, where people want to buy in the rural areas, it becomes a seller's market because there's more people who want to buy in those areas.
Good point. And question number 3, how do I know the piece of property that I'm looking at is going to be a good deal?
One way to ensure that you know it's a good deal is to start looking at real estate early. As soon as you have an inkling or an idea that you want to buy outside of where you are, or you want to buy an additional property, start researching the areas that you want. Like determine where you want to be, and then just start looking at all the real estate listings, whether it's Kijiji, Craigslist, classifieds online, or the real estate, and get to know the market. And then when you come across a property that's a good deal, you'll know it's a good deal because you'll be familiar with the market.
And I think part of that too is that knowing a good deal is it comes through experience of looking at many different properties, actually going and investigating them, even though you know that's not the property for you. But if you go and investigate it, and then you find out a few of the flaws, you learn by talking to people and whatnot, and then you go to the next property, and then you got a comparison, an A and a B to compare, and then once you get a good subset to compare against, a good subset of data, now you can you've got something that you can gauge everything by, so that when a good piece of property comes up, a good building or what have you that you're looking for, hey, you'll know that for that price, that piece of property for what we want compared to what we've seen, this is good at this time in the market.
Now, speaking of that, one good thing to remember too is to learn what you don't want to buy, learn where you don't want to buy. Mm-hmm. We drove a lot of roads and we looked at a lot of real estate listings, and sometimes there was areas that always had something for sale for a long time. So we researched that, and some for different reasons, and we thought, oh, we don't want to live in those areas because whether it's flooding or road issues or whatever it may be. So we learned where we didn't want to buy, and we just stayed totally away from those areas. It sped up our search because we weren't driving roads where we didn't want to be.
Mm-hmm. Right. So looking at topographical maps or the contours, knowing where the high points, what the elevations are like, that gives you an idea of what the land runoff and all that kind of stuff, and where the flood plains are, as Maureen said. Yep. And question number 4. Is it true that permits are not required in those unorganized townships and counties?
Sometimes there are permits required in those, or there could be regulations that need to be followed. Sometimes to do with sensitive areas, waterfront, protected areas of land. There will be certain requirements for where you can build and where you can't build. So it may not be a permit, but you will have restrictions on what you can do and can't do.
And what is an unorganized township or county?
An unorganized township or county is an area where there's never been a municipal body organized. It's where people live basically with no municipal bylaws, no municipal overseeing of what goes on in that area.
No administration buildings. Or
no administration.
Right.
However, in those areas, typically there's the next government above, whether it's the county, the district, the province, or the state. They regulate, like I was saying earlier, but some regulations, they uphold those and like issue any permits.
Environmental and that kind of thing.
Right.
So just because you're in an unorganized township or county does not mean that you're in the Wild West and that there are no rules. It's just that there aren't any local bodies that are enforcing those rules. Right. But there still could be oversight. So you do have to be
like here Right. Like here in Ontario, for your septic systems or your wells, the Ministry of Environment takes care of that, and they issue permits for your septic, and they oversee to make sure proper septics are put in and wells are put in properly, and gray water pits and so forth. So that's an example of needing a permit in an unorganized or unincorporated area.
I think, there's so much that we could talk about with unorganized townships and the no permits, no rules and all that. I think we'll save that for another video. So stay tuned, and we'll give you an update on that in a future episode, all to do with the unorganized townships and that kind of a thing. Because it's a good topic. Yeah, for sure.
What do you need to know to sell parcels of property?
Lots. Question 5. A guy wrote in, he said he wants a hunt camp in the middle of the wilderness up north, but the wife wants a cottage on the lake down south. And that can be
a little bit of a spread.
Yeah, so there's maybe some compromises that have to be met, and if you tend to be uncompromising, follow your dream. We certainly encourage you to do that. But you both, as a team, you need to know what you want and agree on what it is that you want over the long term, and to have that long vision. It reminds me, there's a couple of stories. The one I remember a while back, there was the guy, he was a farmer, he sold the farm, and I think he made the retirement, good retirement, and they moved into a gated community, and he was not very happy there. He said he felt like he was in his own imprisonment, being, in a gated community like that, and being secure and everything, but he was not very happy. The wife was, but he certainly was not. So, and there was another story from a fellow that him and his wife were living in the cabin all winter and into the spring, only for him to find out that his wife wanted to leave and left him there living alone in the cabin because she didn't like the bugs. And the bugs drove her out, and so, and this is just something where they didn't look down the road, that as far as the long vision goes, that is it going to be okay 365 days a year. So I mean, this is just choose where you want to be and be happy in that spot, and make it so it works for everybody that's involved, the whole family, right? And it's not just one person's dream. It should be definitely a joint effort.
See, our property has the best of both worlds.
And right now, up here in the bush, the bugs are bad. As you can see, the black flies are hungry now. The mosquitoes aren't too bad at this point, but the black flies are kind of hungry. But you know what? That goes part and parcel with the territory. We chose this property for what it is, and we understood when we moved here that there were going to be black flies and there are going to be mosquitoes, and that's just part of it. And we have no intention on cutting down all the forests so that there's not as many bugs. And we're certainly not going to spray any chemicals or anything around that would harm all the wildlife and everything like that. Our motto is to respect nature and to preserve and protect it for future generations. Hey Maureen, what do you get when you cross 250 moose with 250 deer?
I don't know. What do you get when you cross 250 moose with 250 deer?
$500,000. That's fewer humor. Thanks, Dwayne. Question number 6. Someone wrote in and had mentioned that they're just beginning their search for property, and they would like to know what kind of tools and resources would be a good place to start as far as looking and searching for land.
One thing is the real estate, the multiple listing real estate, they have a lot of information about properties and areas. And also online, a lot of the municipalities and districts and governments have great maps. We found a lot of great resource maps. Some of them even show the outline of property lines along with the topography. So look at all the municipalities where you're looking at buying, or provincial or state maps as well.
If the property you're looking for is fairly close to where you are now, then you could drive the roads, drive that area, get to know it, and get to know the lay of the land by going on some picnics or some adventures and whatnot. Make a day of it, and that's one place to start. And talk to different people and people that are in the know, right? And different realtors and whatnot.
And we found too, looking at looking for property in remote rural areas, one resource we found to be great was people in the coffee shops, at the gas stations, just get talking to them. We would have a little bit of friendly chit chat and ask them questions about areas. And most of them were quite friendly and ready to answer our questions.
Sometimes we would drive the roads and we'd look for real estate signs, for sale signs, write down the number, and then go back and we'd investigate by backtracking and whatnot, find out how did you do that, Maureen? You'd find the property, the lot number and all that, so we knew we were looking at the right piece of property.
Right. Most of the real estate listings, they do have the legal description or enough description on it that you can find the property on a map. And we would use that too to make sure that the property wasn't near, say, a pit or some industrial property or commercial property.
Google Earth is good for that. Once we know where it was, Google Earth came in real handy, yeah, for that kind of thing, yeah. Well, this next question is an interesting one. Is it safe to buy without a realtor? I can imagine that this person probably saw a sign, for sale and by owner, and maybe had a look through and thought, hey, we could sign on the dotted line and the place would be mine, and that would be that. What do you think, Maureen?
I would recommend that you don't buy without a realtor or without legal representation. Like, sometimes it's okay to buy without a realtor, but you don't know what's going on behind the scenes type of thing. A realtor has the responsibility to look into things for you and tell you if there's anything to be wary of. And we've sold property and we've purchased property without real estate agents in the past, but with our experience and my background, we were able to do the title searches and all the background information searches before we purchased or before we bought. So anyone, if you're not familiar with it, I would highly recommend that you have a real estate agent. You can actually hire a real estate agent to work with you as a buyer. At least here in Ontario, you can do that. Approach a real estate and say, I'm interested in this piece of property. Will you do the work for me and with me to purchase this property? And they can do that. Some will do that, and they'll write up the offer for you, and they will check it out, and they'll ensure that what you're buying is a good deal.
And speaking of locality, we are, as Maureen said, in Ontario, Canada here. And then we looked at the rules that apply for our province and for our locality, our municipalities that we're looking at. You must do the same where you are for your county, state, and in the country that you're in. So
absolutely,
do your homework and do your research, because it could vary from state to state, province to province, county to county.
Good point. Doing your homework ahead of time always pays off.
Another question was, I've got this piece of property, the building on it is perfect for what we want, everything looks fantastic. Should we just go ahead and put an offer so that we don't lose it because we want it so bad? It's the perfect piece of property, it's our dream piece of property. Should we just go sign on the line and make sure we secure it, no conditions, point blank, so that way there's no hurdles to jump? And that might seem like a good idea at first, but what do you think, Maureen?
No, that's a bad idea. You can secure the property, you can secure that you have it by putting an offer in that's conditional. Put a condition in it, like conditional of satisfactory financing. That way you have an out. So it gives you some time, it buys you some time to do some more research on the property, and if everything goes good, then the property's yours.
On the other hand, if you do your homework and through due diligence as you inspect the place and you really get into the nooks and crannies of what you're buying and you get into the details, you might find a few issues that might either cancel the deal, or it might be a substantial amount of money in order to rectify whatever problems that you come up against, and that's where under the conditions of satisfactory financing, that would be your back door to be able to allow you to, it's your escape hatch, put it that way.
Yeah. And that way you can back out of it, or you can say, no, we have to make other arrangements because of what we've discovered. And it gives you the opportunity to still secure the property, but adjust your offer.
Renegotiate. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I hope you found this informative and that we've answered a few of your questions. If you have some other questions, by all means, put them in the comment below and we'll save those questions up for a future update. And stay tuned for more updates. Maureen's got some more buying land, finding your dream property. That's all for now. I'm Glenn.
I'm Maureen.
We'll see you next time. Over and out.
Take care.